Hey folks, Andre here. Well, Ryan and I have been crazy busy with developing projects, going to appearances around the country, as well as recording some rad podcasts with super cool guests. This next episode is part of our trip to the Chattanooga Film Festival. We were jazzed to be invited by the festival to come enjoy what is sure to become one of the best festivals in the region and got to see some awesome films. We saw a slew of shorts. Some were funny, some were scary, some were dark, and some were just plain weird. We got to see the non-stop craziness of Joe Lynch's new film Mayhem, starring Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead. We also saw a funky film called Dave Made a Maze about folks getting lost in a cardboard fort. If you get a chance, go check that one out, and then go raid a recycle bin and build your own. Well, this weekend was awesome. We got to ride on a school bus and drink Tennessee whiskey, ate some spicy as hell chicken with Uva Bowl, saw the band Shannon and the Clams on a riverboat, toured the Tennessee Aquarium, and got to experience great pancakes at a place called Aretha Frankenstein's. We got to do a lot of cool shit, met a lot of cool people. Ryan even got a damn tattoo. So hang out for a bit and enjoy this episode where we sit down with the drive-in movie king himself, film culture icon Joe Bob Briggs. Just after that, stay tuned because we sit down with artist, illustrator, puppeteer, and Americana connoisseur Wayne White. He's the guy that won an Emmy for creating Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Hey, thanks for joining us. This is
Sure.
Ryan and I are jazzed that you're here. We're not going to get into too much like background stuff because we all know you, we all love you, and but tell us, kind of your focus here today. You had kind of a live event where you gave us a kind of a talk.
Well, I was here at the very first Chattanooga Film Festival. I love the Chattanooga Film Festival. I'm trying to support it because I think it can become sort of the mecca for two things: Southern films and exploitation films.
Mm-hmm.
And in the heyday, they're related because in the heyday of the exploitation film, what they were supported by was the drive-ins, and the drive-ins were especially prominent in the Deep South.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris Dortch, who runs this festival, understands all this. He's a true believer, and so the first year I did the history of the South in film, and I had like hundreds of clips and stills and stuff.
Gigantic amount.
And then the second year I did the history of the redneck in film. And then this year I did the history of Tennessee in film. And then next year I'm going to do the whole history of the exploitation film.
I can't wait till next year also, so it's good. I know you did like top 10 Tennessee films or something, right? What's the top 5? Just run the list so people can go know what you were talking about.
Well, number one was The General, the Buster Keaton film about the Civil War that's based around Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And is a tremendous film. Has a lot of special effects in it. Buster Keaton risked his life.
Yep, every time.
The second film is The Evil Dead, which Sam Raimi came to Morristown, Tennessee in 1980 with equipment that he borrowed from Michigan State. He didn't tell him he was borrowing it, so maybe it was stolen from Michigan State. The third film is Black Snake Moan, which Craig Brewer, I think, is probably the best indie filmmaker that ever came out of Tennessee. He made 3 really good films. He may have made a 4th one by now, I don't know, but based in Memphis. Sergeant York, do you know that film?
Sure.
It's 1941.
I didn't know that was a Tennessee movie. Yeah.
One of the greatest Gary Cooper films, one of the greatest Howard Hawks films.
Yeah.
And the biggest grosser of 1941. Sergeant York was born in a two-room log cabin in Tennessee and won the Congressional Medal of Honor in World War I.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about the real Sergeant York is that people were begging him for years to make his life story, and he's a very devout holiness church guy, and so he said, well, I have 2 stipulations. The first one is all the money has to go to the Holiness Church, and the second one is Gary Cooper has to play me. And so nobody could make the movie until they talked Gary Cooper into it.
Right.
And then Gary Cooper won the Oscar for the role. So it was a great decision all around.
And did all the money go to the church?
All the money.
That's pretty solid deal making by Sergeant York back in '40.
It went to a Holiness Bible Church.
Oh, wow.
Let's see, what was number 4? Number 4 was
Or York was York.
York was either 4 or 5. I had Walk the Line on there. The Reese Witherspoon.
I like what they did with that movie. It was enjoyable.
Phoenix.
The Johnny Cash movie.
Yeah.
Because I have one big budget movie. The thing is, Nashville movies are terrible. All Nashville movies are terrible. Even the Robert Altman movie made about Nashville is terrible. and the people in Nashville, they hate that movie. They hate it, and they hate Robert Altman. And it's been 40 years, and they still hate him, and he's dead, and they still hate him.
Is it just like the depiction of the town itself?
Well, no, it's that he didn't use any Nashville music. Right. It's called Nashville. It has all this original music. The country music superstar in the movie is Henry Gibson.
Right.
Okay. And then it has all these sort of like actor studio East Coast guys playing all these country roles.
Yep.
Right.
And it's just a huge slap in the face to Nashville and Tennessee. I agree with them. And I personally don't think people like multi-plot movies to begin with. Only film critics like multi-plot, 12-plot movies.
Right.
And so.
I think some people get lost in it because they can't jump back and forth.
Yeah,
There's
it's
too
like,
many unless they actually come together at the end.
If you leave the theater saying, "Oh, what a multi-plot tour de force," then you were bored out of your mind because you're talking about the structure of the movie.
Right.
So, that kind of leads me into kind of the main middle part that I was thinking about having someone like you at a festival like this, because you opened it up with exactly what I was thinking that I wanted to actually ask was about what something like Chattanooga Film Festival could do. It could be, the place for, Southern films and or exploitation films. And knowing you and your history with, your persona and your work, going back being, the drive-in movie guy, not necessarily have to be at the drive-in, but drive-in type movies. And those were those low budget and those kind of, off-the-cuff ones. But in the last 10, 12, 15 years, filmmaking has changed, so almost everything's low budget now, or a majority of stuff is super low budget. Does that change that dynamic, or do you think people can just make those type of films better and more of them, or has it really kind of put a monkey in the wrench of what you built almost 20 years talking about?
Not really, because when the technology of making films got cheap, see the big obstacle to having a lot of good films was always, well, I don't have the money to make the film. It's so expensive to make films. And then 10, 15 years ago, all the technology got cheap. The cameras got cheap. The editing equipment got cheap. So there's no more excuse. In fact, I thought on the principle of if you have a million monkeys typing, you end up with Hamlet, right?
Right.
And so I thought by the same principle, if you have all these millions of people that now have access to cheap filmmaking equipment, we're gonna have some amazing stuff every year. No, wrong.
It hasn't happened.
No, what happens is they don't go to film school. They don't learn the craft. I could do these seminars where I say, what happened? The movie peters out, and halfway through, and they say, well, we live in Lawrence, Kansas. We don't have the money to. And I say, do you have a university in Lawrence, Kansas? Yes, I believe that you do. Do they have a drama department there? Yes, I believe that you do. Why did you cast your friends? Right. Instead of going to these professional trained actors that are right there in your community.
Yeah.
Why didn't you fix the script before you shot? That doesn't cost any money. All the things that make the movie suck have nothing to do with having no money. It's like, why did you use this particular room and there's like dirty socks in the corner and there's weird art on the wall? oh, well, we didn't have any money for locations, so that's my house. Okay. You still have to art direct the fucking scene, you know. It doesn't matter. You still art direct the scene, you know. It doesn't have anything to do with, you know, for some reason, once film became cheap, once there was no more film,
Right.
so you can shoot as many shots as you want, therefore you have more creative freedom, you know, they stopped planning the shots.
Yeah.
You know, they stopped setting up the shot sequence for the scenes. And so there's all these, all that happened is a lot of people ended up making home movies.
Right.
You know, instead of having some, and what's needed is better producers. Now we've got writers. Now we've got directors. We don't have the Roger Corman guys. We don't have the producer guys saying, no, that script is not ready. No, you got to shoot it this way. No, you got to shoot it here. No, you got to storyboard it. I'm not going to give you the money until you storyboard it. You know what I mean? You have to have this producer discipline. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to make 10,000 crap movies a year instead of 50 good ones.
That is one of my pet peeves. Is like people that make films sometimes don't watch films. Like
They don't
I'll
watch
talk to
film?
an actor. I'll talk to a writer or director in Los Angeles, and I'm not really into I don't like really go to the movies that much, or I don't watch TV. I don't like these TV shows. I'm like, you gotta watch everything. Do your homework is what I would say. You gotta do your homework.
And not only that, you know, they say, well, I couldn't afford to go to film school. You don't have to go to NYU.
No.
You don't have to go to USC.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to Florida State. You don't have to go to the University of Texas. You can go to DeVry Institute of Technology. You can go to any place. The basic principles
Just
of
learn the basics.
filmmaking
Yeah.
are not that complicated. And then you can read books to refine your technique. But I still think that a lot of these young filmmakers, they waste their talent. They're actually talented. They're not stupid people that are
Right.
making these bad films. They're actually talented. They don't have the producer discipline. That's what's lacking.
So from Joe Bob Briggs, the key element is good producers. And the problem that I see with that is no one strives to be a producer because that's the hardest work and the most thankless job.
Well,
and everybody wants to be a creative,
I've
but people don't
actually-
realize that producing is a creative skill also.
Yeah, and I've actually run some numbers, and with Netflix, Amazon, iTunes, and the other now increasingly specialized streaming services,
Yep.
you can put together a business plan where, without a theatrical release,
Yep.
a theatrical release is great. It's a bonus, without foreign sales, without DVD sales, although you can do do-it-yourself
On your own,
DVDs
yeah.
and make money. You can put together a business plan where streaming can pay for the movie.
Absolutely.
So all it takes is, if you want to be, don't come to me and say I'm a writer-director. Come to me and say you're a director-producer.
Thank you.
And do the,
I like that.
do the producing work,
Right.
But I know people from the 80s who are still walking around saying, they call me up and, Joe Bob, I got this little film, and I could give you a name of a famous guy who made like a lot of exploitation films in the 80s. And he calls me up and he says, I got this little film. You know anybody, any place I can help, raise the money for it? What do you need? Oh, it's just a little $5 million movie. And I said, the $5 million movie is over.
It's dead.
You can't do that anymore. And and I say, think of 500,000 maybe, and then go much lower than that. Get it down because
so
that era, if you want to talk to me about $100 million movie, fine. Otherwise, talk to me about a $10,000 movie.
Right.
Those are those can make money. You
Yeah.
know. But how many people can make the $100 million movie? 5 people? There's 5 people that can greenlight
That's right.
a $100 million movie. Okay, there's 1 million people that can greenlight the low-end movies, so we should have good ones. But you got to do the script work, and you got to do the director work, and you're not a writer-director. when you say you're a writer-director, you're not a writer-director. You're either a writer or a director. Concentrate on one or the other, because the directors all have all these crappy scripts, and the writers who write the good scripts can't get their scripts made. So get together, guys. You know, good directors find good writers. You know, work together on this stuff, because how many people have been great writer-directors in history? 10, maybe 30, maybe 30. Okay.
Right. That's a perfect point, because you have to have the good script. That's just a cliche, but it's got to be on the page. But a decent script or a good script can be helped, or a really good script can save a director.
Yeah.
And then a really good director can help save a decent script and make it better. That kind of, because they can help it along the way. But sometimes when you're that same guy, you don't have the internal ability to come out of what you think and really change something that needed to be changed, or adjust what you think you wrote because it's coming from your own mind's eye. And that's a tough human thing to do, is to adjust out of your own self. And that writer-director thing's very hard to do. That's why Aaron Sorkin doesn't direct.
Right.
But the optimistic thing, if you're this low-budget filmmaker, is look how low the bar is. Okay, let me use a couple of examples of friends of mine, and they won't mind that I'm bashing them a little bit. But Lloyd Kaufman makes money. Now, Lloyd Kaufman has never paid an actor to be in his movie. I've actually chided him about it. I said, Lloyd, pay him something. Get some professional actors that have got to be there, you know. And instead he says, well, you know, there's so many actors in New York, you don't really have to pay them. And so his movies are down at this 30% quality level of what they could be. If they were just at the 60% level, you know, I think he would make a whole lot more money for a very little bit of investment.
True.
You know,
Totally understandable.
Charlie Band, you know, making the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, so he can sell the toy that goes with the movie. You know what I mean? You know, it's like Charlie's making money. Charlie's being a producer. He's making money, and he's not had a breakout original movie that you really want to see for years, you know. And so the bar is not that high to break in. It's really kind of low, because streaming is a good thing. Streaming is a good thing. It's brought a lot of ways to make money.
Yeah.
And so I'm disappointed in these guys that they say, you know, Joe Bob, you inspired me. You know, I like a certain kind of movie because of you. You know, a horror or you know, cheap sci-fi or whatever. And you know, and so I'm dedicating this movie to you. You know, and then it's like, well, you know, don't dedicate it to me. Just
make it good.
Yeah, just like decide what you do best, and then surround yourself with other unemployed film industry people who do something else the best, and get a team together. But always get 3 extremely talented people on a film. Never start without at least 3 extremely talented people, and that is director, writer, and editor. And then do not hire amateur actors, ever. Do not let your friends be in the movie. Be an asshole to your friends. No nepotism on that. And, you know, they say, well, it was just this one girl that wanted to be in the. Well, let me, you know, when you have a
that ain't gonna happen.
It's like if you have a milkshake, you know, and you put 1 drop of acid in it, maybe you can still drink it. You know.
Well, that's actually perfectly understandable advice, and I hope a lot of people take it. Did you see anything this weekend that kind of popped out at you, or did you get to see a lot?
I was so buried in my own preparation.
I get it.
For
Yeah,
that,
we do
for
the same
that show that I couldn't see anything.
Yeah,
I have seen. They do have wonderful stuff here, and increasingly it's known as a place where really serious student filmmakers send their stuff.
Yeah.
I want this to become the Sundance of exploitation films. You know,
Fantastic.
I would like it to become competitive. I'm going to talk to Chris about it.
It just takes a little bit of time, and
Yeah.
each year you get a little bit better, a little bit bigger. You get some more names coming. You really tighten up the event as itself, and you get some great programming, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
It can happen, and it's great to have someone like you supporting it, and all the other great people that are here. Correct me, because I've always been an actual drive-in movie theater, and there's very few left around. So every time I think one, I think of you for a certain reason, and a buddy of mine, Adam Hewlin. And Adam I met years ago, and Adam and his partner, buddy Matt Panacci, used to own the only 35 millimeter print of Monster Squad that went around a lot of times. And so
There's only one?
Well, there was at one time that anybody knew, and it just got wore out going all over the place. But I have a personal story that I'd like to share with Joe Bob Briggs. I grew up in LA, grew up in the business, acted my entire life, and actually left to go to play basketball in college. And I went to 2 different schools in North Carolina, and ended up being a UNC Asheville grad. So I was a mass comm journalism major, and we had to take my senior paper. The assignment was you have to take one media/tech invention that changed the world. And one of the rules was you couldn't pick the TV or the telephone, so you had to find something else. And no one in the history of her class had chosen the drive-in movie theater. And
That's great.
I chose the drive-in movie theater.
That's great.
The problem with that is I was in college so long ago that the internet wasn't really there yet, and there's no source material on books about the drive-in movie theater except your book.
Oh, okay.
So your book was my most cited source, and I got marked down a letter grade on my decent paper because I didn't have 20 sources. I only had like 8, and yours I cited the most. So thank you for helping me at least get a B on my paper.
Well, you know what? All that time you were right down the road from Earl Owensby of Shelby, North Carolina, the most prolific drive-in producer in America.
See, if I had done that, I would have known. Now you tell me, Joe. Now you tell me.
You could have said, Earl,
Can I interview you?
Give me the names of all the sub-distributors, because the drive-ins were, about the sub-distribution system in the old days.
I mean, I wrote about it in my paper, I'm sure, but that was moons ago.
When Roger Corman would release a movie, he wouldn't strike, he'd strike maybe 30 prints.
Right.
And those 30 prints would go territory by territory by territory across the country. The last territory they would play is New York.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of the release pattern of major movies, because he didn't want the reviews.
Right.
So he might start in North Carolina and then go to Georgia and then go to Alabama, and then and so in each territory there were these guys, sub-distributors. The sub-distributor had total autonomy. He could run his own ad campaign. Roger had an ad campaign for him, but he could change it if he wanted to. He could put local information in it. He could cut the movie if he wanted to. He could.
Whoa.
If he had local censorship laws or something, Roger didn't want to mess with that.
Yep.
He says, just cut the movie so that it's legal wherever it plays.
Wow. Interesting.
We showed a trailer Friday night. Really, the best Nashville movie ever made was Nashville Girl, Roger Corman movie, 1976, starring Monica Gale.
Okay.
She's 16 years old, and she gets raped in her hometown, and so she sets out to go to Nashville to escape her past and to seek fame and fortune in Nashville. And she hitchhikes with a couple of truckers, and she gets raped again. And then when she gets to Nashville, she gets raped by the first music industry sleazeball that she sees. But she's like determined. She's determined to make it in the business.
Wow.
And so the tagline is, she was determined to make it in Nashville, but first she had to make it with Nashville.
Okay, I don't know how we can beat that.
And that trailer, first of all, it's a classic trailer. It's like wonderful. But Monica Gale was actually a great singer. She looked a little like Sissy Spacek. So, but it had and it has a somewhat happy ending, movies like that would play only at the drive-in and the grindhouse. And
I can see why.
and they would, be more successful than a lot of first-run movies. Roger used to say that he lost money on one movie, that he had made money on 500 movies and he lost money on one, and the one was The Intruder, starring William Shatner, that was a movie about racism in the South. And he said after he made that movie, he would never make another social message movie. He would always put the social message in the subtext, which he did the rest of his career. And so I would always tell that story. Roger Corman lost money on one movie. It's The Intruder. It stars William Shatner in 1962. It's filmed in Sikeston, Missouri. And then about a year ago, whoever currently has the rights to The Intruder made a European sale for $12,000. The movie went into profit.
Wow.
So after, how many years is that? 50.
Yeah.
After 55 years, the final
Finally
Roger
saw
Corman
some-
movie went into profit.
That's hilarious.
That's
So,
good.
which, going back to our original topic, we need a Roger Corman who wrangles these young filmmakers.
Well, I think,
With this new distribution
Jason
and technology.
Blumhouse kind of is sort of riding that model a little bit. He's kind of giving like first-time directors, first-time writers their like little shot right now, and he makes his movies on the cheap, and they do really well.
Perfect point.
So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
about-
they've got that $3 to $5 million kind of model that, decent cast, good actors. They show up. It's usually one, maybe two locations for the entire movie, and they knock it out in a couple weeks, and it distributes wide, and it catches. I mean, yeah, he's done a good job with that. That's a good point.
How many is he making a year?
Oh, they make a handful a year. I mean, they do a lot. Blumhouse, we were just there doing their podcast, Shockwaves, which was awesome. And, I mean, they're cranking out good, and plus they create franchises. So now they've got Insidious and 2 and 3 and 4 and 11 and stuff like that. So they've got a good niche on that. Maybe that is the new inspirations now.
Now they have Get Out and
Right, so
and Whiplash.
that'll help.
They're winning Oscars now, so I mean.
But maybe we need
So
maybe
they'll- it's gonna, they're
maybe,
gonna.
maybe we need
no.
a new Roger Corman, a
Yeah,
new
we
Jason
need a
Blum.
new one. No.
We need a
They're
new
like
one.
they got the limo now. It's
It's
different.
over. It's dead. We still need the pickup truck with a little bit of rust over the
Yeah.
wheel well. But hey, Joe Bob Briggs, thank you for hanging out with us for a few minutes.
great.
I'm glad we got to catch up, and I know you're on your way traveling, so travel safe, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, that was so rad sitting down with Joe Bob, and yes, it's true, his book saved my paper. Up next, Ryan and I sit a spell on the back deck behind Wayne-O-Rama, the art experience and performance space created by world-renowned artist and Chattanooga's own Wayne White. If you visit Chattanooga, definitely go see Wayne-O-Rama. If you can't make it in person, learn more about Wayne and his work at wayneorama.com. Here we go. Well, all right, we're actually out back in even the better part of anything that you could do with the awesome and talented Wayne White. Thanks for joining us on Squadcast, Wayne. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. So we are at Wayne-O-Rama, and so I know you mentioned it a little bit the other day when we were doing the little tour, but just kind of give like the quick elevator pitch explanation of why you set up Wayne-O-Rama here back in Chattanooga and the installations that you have.
Well, I call Wayne-O-Rama the Chattanooga History Funhouse. And this is a concept that I have been on the road with for about 8 years, going to different cities and creating these big art installations based on the local histories and stories of each town that I go to. And all along, Chattanooga was the goal, my hometown, because I like its stories and history the best, and they're the closest to me. And so that's how eventually I did wind up here after about 5 years of planning with Bob Stagner and Dennis Palmer of the Shakin' Ray Levi Society. And we went to work last September. We finished at the end of November, and here I am back again.
Well, it's just crazy impressive and almost
I'm going to say, just so inspiring to see that much work and with craftsmanship, but it's also the vision. And what struck me when you were explaining the stuff that you have on display now, the pieces, and just the big pieces with the incline, and most of it's history based, is what you said, what you liked about certain areas, but especially about Chattanooga, because Chattanooga, you could probably put on a top 10 list of American historical cities almost, if you really wanted to battle it out with some other ones, because there's been a lot going on here over the last 200-something years.
Yeah.
And you seem to have captured a lot of some of those highlights that really make Chattanooga in your art.
Yeah, it's a very, that was a big part of my growing up, was being lost in the stories of the past around here, the Civil War, the Cherokee Indians, the TVA, I always loved history as a kid. I was never, the cliche is that it's boring. Well, it's not boring. It's the stories. It's fantasy. It's a lost world. I was always in love with history, and to be able to, and then Chattanooga's story has spawned a rich tourist attraction industry, and I always say that tourist attractions were my first idea of art. When I was a kid here, there wasn't any art culture. But then we did have all the famous places, Rock City, Ruby Falls, the Incline, and the namesake of Waynorama, Confederama. These places were like, this was art to me. This was, and they were like art because they took landscape and memory and stories and heightened them and made them sexier and more dramatic and charged people to see it. Isn't that what art does? Basically. So to come full circle and to make my own tourist attraction in the name of art, or even just in the name of making a tourist attraction, is a big thrill for me.
That's a pretty neat circle to
Yeah.
come to completion. From being inspired did you travel around a lot as a kid and see Americana? Because I get this very Americana thing, and that's exactly what it kind of really seeps into all this stuff.
We took a lot of road trips when I was a kid, mostly in the South, and mostly to the famous places in Florida and the beaches of North and South Carolina. And, of course, the Rock City barns were a big part.
Yeah, you hit about that with these. So for those who barns around your area growing up, they were basically gigantic advertisements or billboards.
It said "See Rock City." There's still some of them around, and they're a piece of Americana, and they're a huge direct influence on the word paintings that I do. These big, no-nonsense white block letters in a pastoral landscape. All that stuff is very much alive in my work, and.
No, it certainly is. I mean, it's cardboard and wood and paint and things, but it really jumps out. And
it's the thrill of an attraction.
Yeah.
Art's just another attraction. It's the thrill of stepping outside of your reality and seeing something presented. I don't know.
Where does that come from for you? Like, where did you? What's
drawing?
Yeah.
All comes from drawing. Drawing was even more so than early memories of movies or TV. There's a few movies that transported me as a kid, but drawing transported me the most. I used it as a form of entertainment, to stave off boredom. And so I would create these worlds that I didn't imagine myself in, So, and it was a great trick to have, And I soon learned it's a trick that people admire and gives you power in the world. So it's all been about that. I always say if you can draw it, you can build it.
Were there specific drawers that you
they call draftsmen.
Drew from?
And they spell it D-R-U-G-H.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, of course, my biggest influences, like most American kids, was cartoonists. I grew up in the 60s as a little kid, and Charles Schulz was the king of the world then.
Yep.
And Charlie Brown's still, of course, iconic. But Charles Schulz, I'd read articles about him and his huge success. And I loved Charlie Brown, and I thought, man, that's the ultimate artist. And
I always thought his early work was so dark.
It's always
you kind of watch those specials now, like Christmas special.
They're all neurotic.
It's like they're you know, they're fun and happy-go-lucky, whatever. But like, man, the earliest work of Charles was so. Y'all got some kind of horse show?
Hey, David. We're potting. Yeah, his work was always neurotic, you know, and dark. And of course, Mad Magazine, big time for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the artists of Mad Magazine.
All those guys were amazing.
Yeah.
What perfect kind of answer, because you know we would be remiss if we didn't talk about your film and TV work type stuff that goes along with this. But how do you compare? Or I mean, obviously you draw when you're production designing or doing art for stuff, and I mean, good God, you're a multi-Emmy winner, which is rightly so. I think, and you know, we grew up, we love the originality and just almost when you look at it, the sheer genius of the look and the feel and the newness, but not really out of this world newness of Pee-wee's Playhouse. And you were obviously the hand behind the look of all that. So
I was one of many.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes.
I feel like Paul had a lot of like. You know,
yeah, that was what I was going to get into, is how did that dynamic work?
How did it all come?
Did
Yeah,
his brain work along with that,
yes.
and then everybody collaborate and kind of come up with this wacky,
Yeah.
neat world?
Well,
you created a world.
Yeah, to begin with, Paul is an artist himself. He went to Cal Arts. He's been around artists and the creative process forever, so he completely understands the visual art process, and so that was great to have a boss that understands the creative process, because it's difficult and weird.
It's probably very rare as well.
It's
yes?
very rare, and he let us do our thing on our own time in our own way, and I always say the whole thing was just like a downtown New York art project, because we were all doing our jobs for the first time. We weren't Hollywood professionals. We were cartoonists and sculptors and painters and stuff.
I feel like he must have been so excited, like when you would show him something, be like, "Oh my, that's exactly what I wanted it to be," or
in his own
I
way.
could have never imagined it better.
In his own way, he's not like Pee-wee at all. I mean, he's
No,
not.
I know.
No, yeah. I mean, we've met him. We
Oh,
know
okay.
him. Ryan's interacted with him. I've met him
sure.
many times, and
Okay. You know.
I love him as a performer, and I think he's great. But that's just an iconic thing from us growing up, of having something so different.
I always say that one of your jobs as an artist is to find good bosses, you know, and he was a great boss. He really gave us and protected us from the network, you know.
Good.
And gave us our safe space as an artist, as sensitive souls.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it was once in a lifetime. You don't find that in TV.
Yeah.
You don't. It's just.
Well, that's what makes it so unique.
Yeah.
That's why people still.
And it was a poor business plan. They went way over budget and over time and over, you know.
Right.
But look what happened, you know.
Yeah.
Those measly dollars have been forgotten now, and now we live in glory. Glory, hallelujah.
I think the iconography that came out of that, being original, and you guys as the artist having things, someone like Paul Rubens, but Pee-wee's Playhouse was just sort of a new iteration of those local kids shows,
Yes.
like you were inspired by, because I love, my favorite piece in Wayne-A-Rama is the TV.
Yeah, Bob Brandy.
With I couldn't remember his name. It was a local
Bob.
show when you grew up, right?
Yes. And the Pee-wee sensibility is entirely a baby boomer one, of people my age, a little older, a little younger, that grew up with local kids shows. Every city that had its own license, broadcast license, had a locally produced kids show.
Yeah.
It came on right after school, around 2:30 or 3 or so. It'd show Popeye cartoons and whatnot. It was usually a cowboy or an astronaut or something like that.
Yeah.
Ours was a cowboy, Bob Brandy. He'd sing little country music. He'd sit on his Palomino horse and try to throw a ball into a barrel for silver dollars. He gave away Little Debbie snack cakes as a prize.
Of course he did.
He actually used to also give away bread. A loaf of bread.
Just a regular
Yippee.
Loaf of bread as a prize.
Sometimes the sponsor, yeah. It's probably like wholesome bread or something. You know, oh boy.
Well,
we had Tom Hatton, who did the local Popeye
For the
hour.
Popeye, right?
It was
So
always
we would watch-
Popeye cartoons.
And when
Yeah.
I was a
You
kid,
must
I
have
got
get
to
those
be on.
cheap.
I got to be on it.
Yeah.
You got to be on the Tom
was-
Haddon thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as Kids Incorporated, like
Oh,
they
okay.
brought us on, and he would do it. Some people would send in like a doodle, like literally just like a squiggle.
Yeah, that was his
line,
thing,
and
and
then
then
he
you-
would make Popeye out of it somehow.
Well, that's cool.
He would
Yeah.
find a way to make
That would've
Popeye out of it.
excited
So
me.
when I was on, I said, I would love to, and he goes, just draw. Yeah, do it.
Do your squiggle.
Do your squiggle.
The
And I made a
squiggle.
squiggle, and he gave me the Popeye. I still have it.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome. So you have that from Tom Haddon on Popeye.
I do.
And since you mentioned Charles Schultz a little while ago as a thing, I got to do when I was very young, like a TV movie of the week back. When you had that called The Big Stuffed Dog, and it was about the 6-foot Snoopy that made this adventures as it basically made a cross country trip and to find its original owner back. And I played a sick kid in the hospital, and Schultz was on the set, and on the cover of my script, Charles Schultz drew me Snoopy in a hospital bed.
Wow.
And autographed it to me.
Wow.
So it's literally a one-of-a-kind.
You better still have that.
I still have that, yes. And that's getting ready to get like hermetically sealed in like a molten golden frame that no one can get in.
That's
but it's
cool.
been sitting like on a shelf, for the last 35 years.
Wow.
And I covet that. I mean, that's just a rad thing to have.
Yeah,
And
it
you
is.
mentioned Schultz, so I thought I'd share that with you. But
Yeah.
so with what's your goal with Wayne-A-Rama for people to come to Chattanooga? Because I think it's a great stop. And almost I see it as a great first stop that can
Yeah.
tell you to go to these other places.
That's true. It is the great first stop, and everybody should come here first.
Go there first.
Well, it's definitely all about Chattanooga, and it's a primer in its own weird kind of way. But like I was talking about earlier, I'm glad. I don't like to call it an art installation. I call it like I said, the Chattanooga History Funhouse. It's a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. There's stuff here that art snobs can love, and there's stuff here for people who've never even been to a museum or gallery.
Right.
So I would, I have high hopes for this summer. I hope we have a lot of people when the tourist trade starts to warm up.
Mm-hmm. We do too. I mean, we'll try to send as many people your way as we can and enjoy that. And your book out the front is fascinating. I flipped through it the other day, and
Thanks.
I might bring it home with me now today. It's good, and I have a hat, so come and get. I love my hat, and you're wearing one of my favorite things. I have a coonskin hat too.
Yes.
And I love it. And
I also want to mention I'm having a major retrospective here in Chattanooga.
okay,
That the Hunter Museum of American Art.
Okay.
It's going to be 35 years of my work, starting as cartoonist, illustrator, all the production work from television, Pee-wee stuff, all this stuff that's never been shown, my word paintings, my sculptures from the galleries, my installation pieces from other cities, giant puppets, a recreation of my studio, video. So it's going to be the biggest show I've ever had, and that'll open June 29th here in Chattanooga.
here in Chattanooga at the where?
At the Hunter Museum of American Art.
In Chattanooga, okay.
Yes, a really great museum here in Chattanooga. So I'll have two big go-see things here in Chattanooga.
Absolutely.
So
Well, that answers my next question, which would be what's next. That's obviously the what's next.
sort of what's
so.
yeah. That's my big project I'm involved in now, along with constantly tweaking and doing new stuff here at Wayne-A-Rama too. That was part of the concept that I would come back frequently this year and work here
And work on.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, we really certainly appreciate taking a little bit of time out of your nice schedule today. It's beautiful out here, and I'm glad we got to sit out here and chat with you a little bit. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wayne.
Sure.
And stay right there because we normally do a. If you mind taking a photo with us.
Sure.
Put that on there. I'm going to do it kind of lame-o selfie style. I'll move that this way. Yeah, Ryan will get close.
Got it?
Yeah, I think we got some good ones. Well, thank you very much. I know you got your parents in there. Get back and enjoy it. Certainly appreciate it.
Sure, man.
Awesome. Awesome. Did that go through?
I turned.
You hit, Tom?
Yeah.
Great. That was awesome.
I was gonna go into the Tommy Lynch stuff, but I was like,
The what? Sorry. Oh, you chose not to?
yeah, I chose not.
Okay. Because I felt like you were like, I was like, we got some time, we're good.
Nah.
I didn't want to take it too long. Maybe it took about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was rad. We're sitting out in the back deck of Wayne White's workshop, and there's wood pieces and cardboard cutouts and power tools and sawhorses
Who
and
gets
sawdust.
to do this?
Who gets to do that? So that couldn't have been any more rad.
In my whole life,
So
I'm a huge fan of Wayne's. So.
if you don't know who he is, go check out Wayne White. Go check out Wayne O-Rama in Chattanooga, and that, I didn't know about his retrospective thing at that museum. That sounds super dope.
I know.
I would love to come back and do that. So if anybody wants to bring us back to Chattanooga in the summer, please let us know.
Hopefully it tours, and if anybody's listening in other cities, definitely try to find it. Other than that, just go online, like Audrey said.
Yeah, look at his stuff, learn about him, because he really is an amazing artist and kind of an artistic, creative mind. And you'll look at his stuff and go, "Oh yeah, I've seen that stuff."
Yep.
And you don't know what's in it.
Incredibly inspiring. You'll definitely recognize it right away, especially if you're a fan of Pee-wee's Playhouse and a lot of other 80s stuff that he used to do. But he has a very wonderful book out of his work. Like he was talking about his word paintings. So you should definitely go and check those word paintings out. They actually are all over a restaurant in LA called Fred 62. But if you're not there, and you can just look at them online. They're amazing.
The Fred 62 in Los Feliz.
Yes.
So if you're in LA, go and check that out, and you'll get a little taste of Wayne. Well, anyway, all right, that was an awesome little thing. We're still here in Chattanooga, and I'm Andre Gower.
Ryan Lambert.
And this was Squadcast.